playing, I'm just saying, man, we out here trying to function, 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 we out here trying to function. I ain't got time for playing, I'm just saying, man, we out here trying to function, we out here trying to function.
Functions are a huge deal in mathematics. If you don't understand the concept of a function, you're going to struggle in your future math classes. The important thing to realize is a function is a relation, but it's a special kind of relation. A function is a relation where every input value has exactly one output value. I like to help you visualize what a function is with a function machine. Here's my fancy function machine. But here's what it does for you. At the top, you input certain values. Your function machine will operate on it, and out will come certain output values. If I put a 2 into my function machine, the function machine will use what's called a function rule, which is just a fancy equation. Let's say it's x plus 1. If I put a 2 into the machine will work on it, take your input value of 2 and add 1 to it, and out will come a 3. You can keep doing this. Let's say this time I put in a 3 into my function machine. My input is 3, and my output, once the machine works on it, 3 plus 1, out will come a 4. This is an example of a function. Every input gives me the same output. If ever you put in a 2 again, and something else comes out of your machine, let's say you put in a 2 and out came a 7, this relationship is no longer a function. It's a relationship, but it's not a function, because a function is where every input has exactly one output. There are 3 ways to determine if a relationship is a function, and I'll go through all 3 of them. We have the vertical line test that we can perform. We can make a mapping diagram, and we can simply look at the data set to decide if a relationship is a function. We'll start with the vertical line test. Here I have a list of coordinate pairs, a relation. Our job is to decide if it's a function. So start by plotting all 5 of these points on your coordinate plane. Pause the video to do that. Your coordinate pairs should look like this. Now your job is to perform the vertical line test. Well, that's going to require a vertical line. Sometimes people just use their pencil. What you do to perform the vertical line test is take your vertical line and sweep it over your points. If you ever have a situation where your vertical line touches 2 points at the same time, that's telling you that this is not a function. Think about the definition of a function too. You can see right here, my input of 3 gave me 2 different outputs. Sometimes you got a 0 at 3, 0, and sometimes you got an output of 3 at 3, 3. I think I meant a 3 too. But the point is, that vertical line test will tell you that you do not have a function if your vertical line touches 2 points on your graph at the same time. A mapping diagram can tell you if you have a function as well. And here's how you do this. A mapping diagram, you take a little oval shape, and we're going to put our domain values in there. And you make another little shape, and we're going to put our range values in there. The domain of example A is 11, 12, 13, and 20. Put those numbers in and don't repeat your domain values if you have two. Then we're going to put in our range values, -2, -1, -2, and 7, and don't repeat those either. -2, -1, and 7. And then you're going to map these, and that just means you draw an arrow from the domain to its matching range. So 11, -2 was one coordinate pair. 12, -1 was another coordinate pair. 13, -2 is another one, and then 20 and 7. When you're looking at the mapping diagram, you're going to decide if a domain value has more than one range value. Well, this 11 always goes to the -2, and the 12 is always going there and nowhere else. The 13 has one arrow coming off it, and so does the 20. So this function is, or this relation I should say, is a function. I would like you to map letter B, and then unpause the video and we'll discuss whether or not it is a function. Here's what your mapping diagram should look like. Is this a function or not? This is not a function, and the way the mapping diagram tells you is because my input value of -2 has two arrows coming off it. Sometimes you get a -1 coming out of that function machine, and other times you get a +1 coming out of that function machine. So this is not a function. You try this one using a mapping diagram. This is what your diagram should look like. Is it a function or not? This relation is not a function either, and here's the reason why. You put in a 3 and sometimes a 2 comes out of the machine, and you put in a 3 and sometimes a 3 comes out of the machine. You can tell this is not a function from the mapping diagram, but you could also tell just by looking at your coordinate pairs. You glance your eyes through your coordinate pairs, and if you happen to see two of the same inputs, you should be checking that the outputs are the same number. Right here, because I have a coordinate pair of 3, 2 and 3, 3, you can tell just by looking at the coordinate pairs that it's not a function. You have three options for determining if you have a function. Use any one that makes sense for the problem you have in front of you.